God is an extravagantly generous giver.
It's a response to my faith journey with him.
The ultimate evidence that we have a generous God is precisely Jesus Christ.
God so loved the world that he gave his most precious son. So
Today, we get to talk about a topic that some people really enjoy and some people not so much. As we go through our series on liturgies, we're talking about why giving. So how about if we start by kind of giving a definition of how the Bible talks about giving and why is that important? So whoever wants to start.
the why liturgies, or why worship in this way, is actually a response to the character of God. So before we talk about our giving, we talk about, well, who are we? People made in the image and likeness of God. And we say, okay, is God a giving, a generous God? And the answer is a resounding yes. I was even thinking back to him breathing life. You know, the gift of his Spirit, then even his provision for his people through so much. And the very common scripture passage, John 3:16, uses the language of generosity. God so loved the world that he gave his most precious son. So why generous? Well, people made in the image and likeness of God. God is an extravagantly generous giver. So
I would totally agree with that. And I think my view of generosity and giving has really evolved over the years. As a new believer back in college, I thought in terms of amounts and what was I going to be able to scrape out of what I had to give, because, you know, poor college student. And now it's much more of an act of worship. It's much more of what am I going to keep, because it's all his anyway, and I'm giving back to him. It's a response to, in my faith journey with him, it's not like just this thing that I do.
Yeah.
It's more holistic than that, I feel like.
So why do you guys think that usually people get uncomfortable with the concept? Or why is it that people struggle giving? What would you say?
I think it comes down to a trust issue. People trust in their savings accounts and in their financial stability and those kind of things. And so if that is affected, it can affect their trust, you know, like their security. And I think it's a good test of your trust in God. Do you trust him enough to give generously of what you have, because he's given it all to you anyway. I also think people are hesitant to talk about it because so often it's been used manipulatively, or it's been used in a way where shame is involved, or amounts are given. And I feel like that kind of takes away from the essence of what it really means to give and to give generously.
It's a matter of the heart, and there's a reason Jesus teaches so much on possessions, wealth, money, treasure. You know, those are a lot of the terms. And he appears to be warning people by saying, listen, there's a lot of temptation out there. Maybe the most powerful or the most insidious or the easiest for you to fall into, it might be this one.
Absolutely.
So one of the good gifts of God that becomes a God thing, an idol for us, there are other things that it's a bigger leap to make that happen. Money, it happens so sneakily and so quickly and easily, and it seems like a compelling master. It makes a great tool, a terrible master, according to Jesus. But we turn the tool into the actual pursuit of our lives. That happens so easy, so fast. And people will get uncomfortable when we tear down idols. When their idols come crumbling down around them, that's about the most uncomfortable thing someone experiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's this false security that comes with money, right? But I think that both of you guys said it in a different way. The problems with money and giving are deeper problems. So trust, idolatry. So if that is true, then when we gather and we purposely give, and by the way, I think that the biblical concept is give sacrificially, not so much percentages, but sacrificially. How does that shape us into the people that we are when we live in the world? And actually, part of the reason why I asked you both to do this is because I know enough from both of you that you are generous people, that this is your lifestyle, not just in money, but in everything, but including money. So how does giving shape you, or has shaped you personally into the way you live your Christianity when we are scattered, when we live in the world? What would you say?
It's interesting. I think of two ends of a spectrum because, when I first came out of college and was a teacher, I made so little money. And yet that was a period in my life where I trusted him the most, probably in that area, just for day-to-day living, for whatever it was. And I think that I miss some of that sometimes. But yet there's this other end of the spectrum where Grant and I are now, where we can give very generously of our time and our talent and our treasure. And there's so much blessing that comes from being able to do that, to invest in things that we never were able, I wasn't able to do as a single person back in the day. And I've just found such deep joy in that, and just allowing God to show us where he wants us to invest. And I mean, at least for me, it's brought so much joy that I want to continue to practice it outside of Sunday morning.
Why did you use the term invest?
Invest, because I think so much of what Grant and I give to are ministries and people who are serving the gospel and ministering the gospel in other places, a lot of really hard places. And so for us, it feels like a kingdom investment. And not that the investment in the brick and mortar of Wheaton Bible Church isn't important as well, because this building allows us to be able to do the things that we do. So it's kind of like both and. So
I agree with all of that. That was really well said. The practice and the regular practice of giving, and even talking about it as a family, every time it's a declaration. When you're open-handed and you give time, talent, or treasure, it is a declaration. This does not control my heart. And actually, we need to practice that thousands and thousands and thousands of times in our lives so that it actually doesn't control our heart. So as a discipline, as a practice, as with my kids, it's fun. We do it at Missions Fest every year. We talk about, so they're 4, 3, and 1. We talk about the missionaries, the projects, and we've prayed about the amount we want to give. And we even press the button together as a family. We did that last year. We'll do it again this year. Because we want our kids to actually see that, to see what the investment is. We make choices as a family that means we'll live differently than other families around us. And that is a sacrifice, but it's really beautiful because we get to testify to the kids, like, what are we going to do with this? And what is God going to do with this? This is his anyways. And
I think too with that we model for our kids and our families giving first. I think there's a tendency in the culture today to give what's left over at the end of the year. Why is so much giving done at the end of the year? Because we're waiting to see what's left over. Whereas teaching our kids and then also instructing our own hearts that we give first, because that's what we want to do. It's called for in Scripture, but it's also just an obedience of our hearts to be able to do that. And I think it helps loosen the control that that money can have over us if it's given first.
I think that there is also almost like part of the reason why this is kind of a spiritual discipline, which is not kind of, it is a spiritual discipline. It is because we struggle with contentment.
Yes.
Like we really do in so many different areas. So if we are honest, usually not only we like money, but we like what money gives, right? And so I've always seen generosity also as a way to fight against this thing that I have in my heart that is not content with what the Lord has provided. All right, so both of you got super personal in the things that you share.
Yeah.
How did you guys get there? Like, okay, how was your journey? Getting, because part of the reason why I'm asking this is because people get stuck on the percentage part, right? And kind of the argument I'm going to make is that you might give $5, and for where you are, that is sacrificial giving.
Yeah.
There could be a person that gives $1 million, but they have so much that that's not sacrificial giving. So what has been your journey personally through this, and what is it that you've learned along the way?
I was reflecting back to 17 years ago.
You were like 5.
Yeah. And there was a contentment. I was on a mission field on a remote island group and made, the salary was $5 a day.
Oh, wow.
There was nothing to buy. So I saved, all of that. But the interesting thing there, and I go, it was a beautiful time of life, because I distinctly remember my field leader every 6 to 8 weeks would send on a cargo boat that would come 2 things. And it was the ultimate of luxury: Oreos
Wow.
and Lowry's seasoned salt to put on my fish that we were eating every day. And what a great lesson as a young adult to go, man, let me tell you about luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Box of Oreos and some salt. And it was. And that's a beautiful lesson that I actually think we so easily forget. And for many people who don't live in that way, it's almost impossible to practice.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of where my journey started. And that's a prayer for us of what is the balance of this of, I hope we always define, like luxury by being content with really, really small things. And as Christians, it's ultimately we're content. When we have Christ, we have all.
Yeah.
But again, how many times do we need to preach that to ourselves?
Yeah.
1,000 times a day.
Yeah.
Joy, my wife, for those watching, also, she's amazing in this. Her heart to love others, serve others, it's just really inspiring. And so it's been a fun union for us to pour out our lives, time, talent, and treasure. And so the journey for me has been to learn. I believe that your home church, whatever your home church is, your fellowship, your body of believers, where you receive the teaching of God's word, where you're in community, that's the primary, not the only, but reflected in your time, talent, and treasure, I believe should be primary.
Yeah.
And that's a journey that God has taken me on in my 12 years here at my home church. That's been really fun.
For me, I think a lot of my initial lessons came because I was involved in a Christian ministry on campus. I was involved in the Navigators, and they did a lot of talking about this, even at, in an impressionable age when you're in college. But there was just this idea, and Grant and I agreed to it as newlyweds, is that we would live within our means. We weren't going to take on a lot of debt. We weren't going to, other than for the first home we buy, that type of thing. We've always just chosen that type of thinking, and it is very countercultural.
Yeah.
Very countercultural. And so even we're not people of extravagance. We never have been. I don't know that we ever will be. But yet at the same time, acknowledging that we live better than 95% of the world.
Yeah.
So, just to remember that, to keep that perspective in mind. But I think you're totally right about contentment. I think that's a huge issue. And I think it also, it makes you begin to think that you don't have what you need.
Yeah.
And boy, God has given us everything that we need. And so I know it's just a phrase people say, but I just can't outgive God. He has been exceedingly generous to me. So there's nothing I can do that could ever be more than that. And so to me, it's such a blessing just to be able to give beyond just financially, but also to give our home.
Yeah.
And our time and our attention and, some of those things. So.
I would think too, I thought of, it's in Augustine, and also C.S. Lewis wrote about this. The principle is, even if initially you don't find something to be beautiful, treat it as beautiful. Do that over and over, and it becomes more beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing in the liturgy series. Generosity, giving is hard. We know the truth that it is beautiful, but we have to have the discipline to choose to see it as beautiful, even in the moment when we don't. Because if the end goal is to say, who doesn't want to be a more generous person? That's a deep-seated thing for people. Well, you have to see and act as if generosity is beautiful over and over and over. And I do think some of the most compelling witnesses, people whose lives just to a watching, non-believing world, it's generous people in time, talent, treasure. People look on and go, listen, I could never do that.
Yeah.
And the Christian says, you're right. Outside of Christ, you never could.
Yeah.
It's a compelling testimony. There's no doubt about that.
So seasons in life, look different according to your needs and family and changes and things like that. So I'm assuming that you have adjusted through times when it comes to giving. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think for us as a family, one of the things we tried to focus on a lot is the difference between wants and needs. And as your family grows, there can be, and as they age and are in school and in college and all of those kind of things, you can start to take things that are actual needs and make them, or take your wants and make them into needs. And then everything becomes something that you need to give your money to. And giving to the church or to those who teach you, to those who lead you, or to missionaries and so forth falls way down the list. But again, if you go to that principle of we give first, and also understanding what's the difference between a want and a need. That helps you choose how you invest your money and how you spend your money.
Yeah.
So we're in a very expensive season of life right now, for probably the next 20 years, right?
Or that helicopter you bought.
Right.
Yeah.
I joke though, we're a couple $100 in at Costco before there's an ounce of food in our cart. Diapers and wipes start you off with a full cart. And so I want to avoid, because I actually think when we say time, talent, treasure, I do think people can have particular gifts stronger in one more than the other.
Yeah.
But I want to avoid saying, so just do your one. I actually think as believers, it's all three.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you look at seasons of life and how those three play out, So for us, from a treasure principle, choosing a life in ministry, there are many others with greater wealth, greater financial resources to give.
Yeah.
We should still give as we are able, and we do. But to say, okay, great wealth may not lie there for us as it lies for others. Time, talent, things to spend, to invest for the good of the church, for the glory of God, right? And so I think that's a really important principle to understand. Those will ebb and flow with seasons. You seek to be generous in all three, but understanding the season you're in and what may be a specific extra generosity, a specific practice that is fitting of the season.
Yeah, so that's why, and we mentioned already, the percentage, it's important for you to know, right? So you want to grow as much as you can, understanding that there are seasons in which you just can't, right? As much as you want, you just can't. But if the principle is sacrificial giving, you adjust to the season in which you are. Still exercise sacrificial giving without being irresponsible or even feeling guilty, right? Like there might be people going through things in which I cannot give as much as I gave last year, right? If you will. But I could give in these other venues. So I think that your point is clear and good. You still got to give because it's still part of our Christian walk. but it might look different in different seasons. I feel the same way with time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
You got your little ones, you probably don't have the flexibility that you have.
At this
right?
point, yeah.
So it's embracing the principle without allowing guilt to come and take you from the joy of doing all those things.
Well, I like to think, too, when you mentioned earlier, Kyle, you were talking about Jesus talked about this so much, and to think that he wasn't just talking to one generation of people. His audience was multi-generational, and many of them living day to day with their resources, right? And yet he still recognized that this was an issue that people struggle with, right?
Yeah.
But he also had people there who had, just had these similar challenges. And so I like to think of him as he spoke about those principles, especially the parables about money. There's so many of those, that they were meant to fall on the ears of people at varying stages of life. And there's something for each of us in each of those stages. So.
Well said. And I think that you said it implicitly. Really, the gospel is the inspiration and motivation behind all of this. You started with this. It's because we have a generous God that we want to be generous people. But the ultimate evidence that we have a generous God is precisely Jesus Christ. And that's why, so the question for me is not so much should we give or how much we give, but look at what we have received. Why wouldn't we?
Right.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for your participation.
You're welcome.